Hope you're hungry, boys and girls, because you're back at another episode of Meat Sweats. So on today's episode, we're going to be starting up a new series. We're going to be grinding, casing, and linking up some good old-fashioned grease missiles. This is everything you need to know about sausage making, coming right up. Now, I'm from Philly, so I figured if we're going to start off this sausage making series, we got to go all in on that. That's going to be with my cheesesteak sausage. It's got everything that you would want in a classic cheesesteak, all mixed together into one juicy, succulent tube of meat. It's beefy, it's cheesy, it's oniony. It makes you feel like you're exactly where you need to be in this life. We've got brisket trim in here. We've got Cooper Sharp American cheese, fried onions, some diced up cherry peppers. It's going to do the trick every single time, so you're going to want to give this one a go. Now, the first thing we have to do for these cheesesteak sausages is get our meat ready and seasoned. For a cheesesteak sausage, we are going to go with all beef here. So this is a perfect time to use some of that brisket trim you might have lying around. All right, so I cooked up a couple briskets the other week, and this is all the trim that we have from that. So when you're trimming your briskets, you're going to want to do your best to try to separate the lean meat from the fat, and then we can kind of cube them up into smaller pieces like this that'll be able to feed through the grinder a little bit better. Now, a good rule to follow when we are making sausage out of any trim that uses like a brisket or a pork butt, anything like that that has a bunch of intermuscular fat already in that lean meat, when we're doing our ratios, we're going to want to do something closer to an 80-20 lean to fat ratio. That's because by the time that we get all that intermuscular fat out of this meat, it's probably going to turn into something that's a little closer to 75-25. If you're doing a sausage that's a chicken sausage or a turkey sausage, you might want to bump that ratio up to a 70-30. But if you're using brisket trim, if you're using a pork butt, 80-20 on the initial batch is the way to go. So it's going to be key here that you get yourself a nice, reliable scale when it comes to sausage making. We're going to be doing a lot of measuring here, a lot of math when it comes to the ratios. It's not really like an exact science like it would be for something like bacon, but the scale's still going to be pretty important to have. So with this brisket trim, again, we mentioned we're going to go with an 80-20 blend of lean meat to fat. So I've measured this all out. What we have right here is going to be just under like 6 pounds of lean meat. So we've got, converting that into grams, we've got 2,662 grams of lean meat. Now, in order to get to that 80-20 ratio, what you need to do after you measure out your lean, you want to multiply that number by 0.25. That's going to give you, for this batch right here, let's just, let's make it easier for everybody. Let's say we go 4 pounds of lean meat. Multiply that by 0.25, that's going to give you 1 pound of fat. You put the 1 pound of fat together with the 4 pounds of lean, that's 5. 80% of that is going to be lean, 20% of that is going to be fat. I hate math, it's pretty easy. So we've got just under 6 pounds of lean right here, and we've got about 1.5 pounds of fat. So once you have everything measured out for your meat, then it is time to get into our seasoning. Now, when I'm thinking about a cheesesteak, I'm thinking that it's beefy, I'm thinking that it's cheesy, and I'm thinking that it's loaded up with some fried onions. So there's not really too much to it. We're going to keep this seasoning pretty simple. We're going to go in with a bunch of kosher salt. We've got ourselves some black pepper. We've got granulated garlic. With the onion, I really want the onion to punch through. I want to go pretty heavy on the onions. We're going to have the onion powder and minced onion here. We're also going to throw fried onions in there later. And then we're going to go with some paprika for color as it's on the smoker. And probably most importantly, we've got our pink curing salt. That's what's going to allow us to cold smoke these sausages at some low temperatures for a few hours. Also going to let it cure and hold in your fridge for longer. Now you can do this part a day in advance, or you could do this in the morning and then we could put it through the grinder later in the afternoon. But after we get all of our seasoning all shaken up, mixed up there, we're just going to get it on the meat. Personally, I'm going to do this the day before. I'm going to let this sit in the fridge overnight. Everything will absorb into that meat before we throw it into the grinder, and then we'll be good to go tomorrow. And this is what we're looking at the next morning. So you can tell, great color change. It's got that nice deep color. You can see that the salt, the pepper, that paprika really got in there, really penetrated all the meat. The curing salt goes in there. It's kind of got a nice like charcuterie smell to it already. So this is what it's going to look like before it goes into the grinder. Now, depending on how often you're making sausage, how big the batches are that you're making, it might be worth it to go out there and get yourself an actual meat grinder. This one right here, I think it's like the 5-pound batch one from the meat company. Nothing too crazy, nothing too expensive. If you're only making small batches or you're just doing this every so often, I know that the KitchenAid mixer has the attachment on there that works perfectly fine. So really just depends on what you're doing, how often you're doing it. All right, so we're going to get the blade on there. And then what we're going to do in terms of the disc is we are going to use this coarse die one, and we're going to go through 2 times. So we're going to put it through the grinder once, take it all out, throw it back in through this same die the second time. Now that all of our meat has gone through the grinder twice, it's time to throw a few more things in here that's actually going to make this into a cheesesteak sausage. So cheesesteaks, we've got beef. We've got Cooper Sharp cheese. That's been the #1 cheese to go into a cheesesteak recently. I feel like you can't make a cheesesteak without it being Cooper Sharp American. We've got the fried onions, and I like a little kick to all my sausages. I also like a kick to my cheesesteak, so we're also going to throw in some minced up, diced up cherry peppers here. So when it comes to throwing all this in, and then when it comes to all the seasoning that we did before with the salt, the pepper, the paprika, the pink salt, all of those percentages are based on the total weight of the meat, so both the lean and the fat combined. So let's say we have 3,000 grams of meat here. We're going to go in here with 10% of fried onions. So we took those onions, we fried them up to about, not all the way, just until about they get translucent. Dice up some onions, fry them up. We're going in with 10% fried onions to this mix. It's a little heavy, but again, I want this to be a pretty onion-heavy mixture into the sausage. So we're going in 10% with the fried onions. Next up, we've got our cherry peppers. Cherry peppers, we're going in with just 6% total to the total weight of cherry peppers. These are got a good kick to them. It's not too spicy. They've been sitting in the brine, so it kind of takes a little bit of the kick off of them, just enough to let you know that they're there. 6% of our cherry peppers. And then finally, we've got some diced up, cubed up Cooper Sharp American cheese. With this, we are going in with 8% of our Cooper Sharp American cheese to the total volume. Once we've got all that in there, now it is time to get in our binding agent. Milk powder usually seems to be the go-to for most people. You can get the non-fat, dry, instant milk. In with the milk powder, we've got 3% to the total weight of milk powder going in here. And this is just going to pretty much act as the glue for our sausage. It's going to help emulsify everything. It's going to help that the lean and the fat kind of all absorb into each other. That way we're not going to get any fat really rendering out and blowing out of this sausage. So the binding agent is going to act as the glue, kind of keep everything nice and tight together. And to get that going, we're just going to add in 10% liquid. You can use anything you want here. I've used beer before. Usually just have the best results just going pretty simple with water. So we're going to go 10% water to total weight. So we've got our fried onions, our cherry peppers, our Cooper Sharp American cheese, 3% milk powder, 10% water, and now it's time to mix the shit out of this. So when we're mixing, we're just looking to kind of fold everything over on top of each other. I guess kind of like you're making a dough or anything like that. The biggest thing that we are looking for here is that, one, we want even distribution of all of our ingredients. So we want to see the cheese, the peppers, the onions. And then the second thing that we're looking for here is packiness. We want to make sure that this is as thoroughly mixed as we can get it. We don't want to overwork it too much just because we might start blowing out some of the fat, but also we want to make sure that we've got a good emulsification going on there. Everything's all incorporated. We want to make sure that the bind on this is going to be phenomenal. Biggest way to test to make sure that your mixing is complete is you should be able to get a clump of that sausage, should be able to go onto your hand and hold up on its own. So right here, that's good to go. So we season up our meat. We threw it through the grinder twice. We added all of our other ingredients. We gave it a great mix. Now it's time to finally case up these grease missiles. Now when it comes to sausage stuffing, two big things that you're going to need here. One, going to be a sausage stuffer. Pretty important for stuffing sausage, if you wouldn't believe it. Second thing is going to be your casings. We're using some all-natural hog casings here. And they've been sitting in a container of warm water for the last 20, 30 minutes, just rinsing out. When you buy these from the store, they're going to come packaged and a whole bunch of salt, so you got to rinse out that salt. So to get these casings ready to go on, what you got to do, you're going to find the opening here. You're going to dip it into the water, kind of clear out all that salt that's going to be inside, drag it through. You're also going to be able to check to see if you have any holes here, but as long as you've got that little water bubble going the whole way through, you should be fine. So we're clearing out this casing, and then this one is ready to go. So what we're going to do to get this casing onto the nozzle here is first, you always got to use a little bit of lube, so we're going to get this nozzle nice and wet. Also, we've got a nice clean surface to work with here. I like to kind of just get this wet too. It lets the sausage glide off of the stuffer a little easier. We're going to take that opening from the casing, sometimes a little easier said than done. And now here comes everyone's favorite part about sausage making. Right on top of the nozzle there. And then you basically just have to jack this sucker off. I know some of you are going to be great at this. All right, that seems to be enough right there. Give it a little snip. Wrap up the tip here. And now we are ready to go. All right, now once you are done getting through that batch, we're going to release the tension off of the stuffer here, so bring it backwards. Then we're going to be able to pull off the rest of this casing here. We're going to tie off this end. Now's a good time to kind of snip off this little extra bit that we don't need. Here we have a nice big coil of some cheesesteak sausage. We're going to get around to individually linking these. If you wanted to, you could individually link each sausage as it's coming off of the nozzle. You could go, link up one, feed it again, link up the other, going the other way. Usually it's just going to be a whole lot easier if you were able to get these into a nice long coil, and then we'll go through again and link them all up. All right, so to link up these sausages now, first off, we're going to use a dough scraper kind of as our guide for sizing. So we're going to go the size of a dough scraper. We're going to kind of unravel this a little bit. We're going to take the first one here. We're going to pinch, and then we're going to twist. Now you got to be careful here. You don't want to bust through the casing, but this first twist that we're going to do, I'm going to go away from my body. So I'm going to twist up a little bit away from my body. Kind of uncoil a little bit more here. All right, so that one's going away. Dough scraper for measurement. Make sure that everything's nice and even. Come in here. Going to give it a quick little pinch. Try to get everything nice and tight. And now we're going to come back the other way. This next twist is going to be towards me. So we're going to twist this one towards me, and we're just going to keep doing that all throughout these coils. All right, and then once we have everything linked up, the last thing that we are going to do, you're just going to take a sharp object. You can go out, you can get a sausage pricker, poker, or something like this, or just really any small sharp object you can. And we're just going to go through, and any sort of air bubbles that we see in here, we're just going to give the casing a quick little poke. Kind of let any of that air out of the casing. That way it can get nice and tight on that sausage before it goes onto the smoker. And there we go. Once all of our sausages are cased up and linked up, these are now going to go into the fridge overnight. We're going to have the casings kind of dry out a little bit, everything tighten up. Maybe before we go to sleep, we'll go in there, we'll flip it over to make sure that both sides of the casings dry out evenly, and then these are going to be ready to go into the smoker tomorrow morning. Now for all of our sausages, we are going to be cold smoking, which means that we're keeping those temperatures under 200 degrees for the entire cook. You don't want to cook sausages too hot and too fast because then all that fat will render out. It'll get caught up in the casing. It'll be a big, greasy, soggy mess. So whether you're using a pellet smoker or a Weber kettle or an offset like this, you want to keep those temperatures nice and low. Anywhere between 150, 175 is perfect, and you can run it as smoky as you want to add some extra flavor. All right, so these sausages were in the refrigerator overnight, drying out. It is now the next morning, and it's time to get these beef rockets onto the smoker. Before we do that, we just want to go through, individually slice up each link, makes things a whole lot easier. Before these go onto the smoker, this is what we are working with. Nice, tight casing. You can see all the ingredients evenly distributed throughout. These are ready to go. So actually cooking the sausage is the easy part here. I mean, once we get these suckers on the smoker, there's not much left that we have to do. We're going to go in there about halfway through. We'll flip everything over so we get nice, even smoke on both sides. We'll clean up any soot there might be on the casings just from sitting on the grill grates. Let it rock for another few hours, and then we're done. All right, so these sausages have been on the smoker for about 5.5 hours at this point. We've been cold smoking from about 160 to 170 degrees. We're looking to bring these up to an internal temp of somewhere around 150 to 155. It's not fully cooked, but it's cooked enough that we can safely hold it. So coming off the smoker right here, this is what we're looking at. Great color, great amount of bounce to this. Let's probe test it real quick. 152, 154, 155 degrees right here. So these are definitely ready to come off the pit. The last part of this cook is we have a container here filled with ice water. We're going to throw these sausages right into the ice bath right off the smoker. One, it's going to stop any carryover cook from happening. Two, it's going to help us kind of tighten up that case in the end. All these wings going right in. In the end, this is what we are working with. We've got a beautifully plump and juicy cheesesteak sausage, deliciously deep red right there. Plenty of smoke getting onto this thing. We've got it stuffed with the Cooper sharp cheese, the diced up cherry peppers, the fried onions. If you want, you can go ahead and just eat these whole, or you can slice them up into little medallions, kind of makes it easier to share. Look at that. Great bind on that thing, nice and juicy. Cheese just starting to get nice and melty. We've got the diced up cherry peppers there, everything evenly distributed. Or you wanna go nuts? Let's go ahead and make ourselves a sandwich. Throw it on a roll, put some onions and peppers on there. Not hungry yet? Saving them for an event? Go ahead and vac seal these. You can vac seal them, throw them in your fridge. They're good for a couple weeks. Throw them in your freezer. They're gonna be good for pretty much your lifetime. So they're already preserved. Freeze dry them, go and throw them in the vac seal. But right now, I'm hungry. I wanna snap into this thing right away. Little snap test here. Come on, come on. That's what we're looking for. That's the money shot right there. You can hear the snap at home. You know it's there. Listen. There's supposed to be a little bit of grease in a grease missile. And we've got the grease right there, but it's not overly greasy. That's the key there. A little bit of grease in a grease missile. Can't be too greasy or else it's a mess to eat. This is the perfect amount. Saturday or Sunday afternoon, you got a couple games on. Throw one of these in the oven. Bite it, throw it in the oven, 275, right? You're gonna vac seal it, put it in the oven, 275 for about 20, 25 minutes. Ready to go. Oh, mom, boys and girls,
That right there is your cheesesteak sausage. I'll see you next time.